Since 2016, the Democratic Party has been in a tailspin. Under Barack Obama, they had a clear vision focused around social justice and healthcare. But since Trump's election, their only unifying issue is opposition to President Trump. President Biden won his primary on nothing more than electability. He was bland enough to beat Trump. And Kamala Harris lost in 2024 because she could not become more than not Trump. However, after the 2024 election, the Democratic Party seems to have said, if we can't beat him, we'll just join him, and copied Trump's tactics to a T. On today's edition of Krause House, I'll explain how this happened and what it means for the future. Welcome to the Krause House. In 2015, Donald Trump announced his campaign for the Republican nomination for President of the United States. Looking back, we all know what he would do. He took the nation by storm, and he eventually had two, admittedly non-consecutive terms in the White House. At the time, however, his campaign was seen as little more than a gimmick, an ego trip by a washed-up reality TV star and self-purported businessman who many saw as little more than a showman. And while he eventually became much more than a showman, he never ceased to be a showman. He dominated the Republican primary debates, calling Rand Paul's wife ugly and Jeb Bush slow.
Rand Paul is ugly? And the whole crowd was like, oh!
This rhetoric faced large amounts of criticism at the time, but is now seen as just Trump being Trump, and is in fact one of the things that his enemies appreciate about him. Many of them have conceded that he is in fact very funny.
I think Joe Flacco is actually a very elite quarterback. He won a Super Bowl. He did it really to a certain extent with that great arm of his. I would say absolutely he is an elite quarterback.
And simultaneously, Trump is very media conscious. This makes sense. After all, he's done plenty of work in front of cameras, but it contrasts with the popular image of him as saying whatever is on his mind, despite what anyone might think about him. Everything he says and does actually feeds into presenting an image of him as a strong, powerful leader. There is no better example of this to his reaction to literally being shot in the ear, when instead of running off stage with the Secret Service, he raised his fist and triumphantly yelled, "Fight." His media presence may appear chaotic, but it ultimately does a better job of promoting a coherent brand than most politicians' attempts at doing so through controlled media efforts. His chaos is the brand. It wasn't just Trump's rhetoric which was out of left field. His unapologetic candor extended beyond mere words and into the realm of policy. He's often been associated with the word populist, which, while not perfect, is an apt description of what I'm talking about. He attempted to give a voice to those who had felt left out by the previous years of leadership from Barack Obama, George Bush, and Bill Clinton. His opposition to immigration wasn't just based on constitutional theoretical grounds. In fact, that sounds kind of funny. It emerged out of a desire to bring back American jobs. A classic piece of bloomer slop memetics captures this perfectly. Many of Trump's supporters view him as protecting them and their interests. His campaigns fundamentally extend out of a desire to protect his in-group, white working-class voters. His MAGA colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Look over here, Mr. President.
has famously said, "What's a Houthi?" This doesn't affect my district, in reference to foreign wars. The MAGA movement is fundamentally based around a sort of neo-class consciousness, which is usually associated with leftist and liberal movements. Initially, this was criticized by Trump's opponents, but instead of opposing politics based on class coalitions outright, they have doubled down on their own in-group dynamics and are increasingly willing to demonize the out-group. During those 2016 primaries, one of the primary words used to criticize Donald Trump was unpresidential. That word has now faded from the lexicon. Trump's candor has become the default. From Tim Walz accusing J.D. Vance of having sex with a couch,
that is if he's willing to get off the couch and show up.
To the official Twitter page of the Democratic Party routinely using F-bombs, crass candor is now the norm when it once was an aberration. One of the best examples of this is the New York City mayoral Democratic primary, which just occurred a few days ago. Eric Adams, the current mayor of New York, who is running as an independent after being ousted from the Democratic Party, is one of the few individuals who can claim to match Trump's level of sheer unhinged political rhetoric. While this sort of candor certainly has its downsides, its advantage is that its unapologetic nature is scandal-proof. Adams has survived scandals not because he defended himself from them, but because he ignores them, just as Donald Trump does. He doesn't defend himself, he just says the next thing that is on his mind, and his administration moves on. It's brilliant, and it's also deeply Trumpian. His opponent is Zohran Mamdani, a former state assemblyman. Mamdani, while more put together than Adams, also has very characteristically populist elements in his electoral strategy. He is polished, yet he is also bombastic. His online presence is very accessible, but not condescending to Gen Z. This video is particularly fascinating because despite Mamdani being a socialist, this specific policy proposal is actually deregulationist and, dare I say, libertarian.
How much does a plate of halal cost right now from this truck?
$10.
$10.
chicken of a rice, lamb of a rice, $10.
$10?
Yeah.
When you're a street vendor, you have to pay for the food, the plates. How much do you have to pay for your permit?
Before it was 22K.
17,000.
And how much does a license cost if you get it from the city?
I think 400.
And who are you paying?
The permit owner.
You're not paying the city.
No.
You pay the permit owner $22,000 just so you can sell this food.
Yes.
And who is this?
A random guy.
Have you ever applied for a permit?
Yeah, I'm applied and no come anything.
It's long wait. Number 3,800 something. And
After 2 years, you're number 3,800.
yes.
Like Trump, Mamdani does not care about having a coherent ideology behind his policies, but instead promotes whichever policies will be seen as beneficial to his in-group coalition. The man who Mamdani beat in the recent primary was Andrew Cuomo, the scandal-ridden former governor of New York, who represents the establishment to a T. As Cuomo is to Mamdani, Jeb Bush was to Trump, a shadow of the former coalition which had led the party, whose lackadaisical and arrogant attitude had led to a deserved demise. Despite their coalitions being different, Trump's is working-class whites, coal miners, etc., and Mamdani's is younger people who have college educations but are struggling financially due to student debt and high rents in New York, they are saying the exact same things to these groups. They're saying, in bright neon letters, "You've been forgotten, and I'm here to save you."
You people should be thanking Christ that I am who and what I am because you need me. You need me to save you.
Clearly, it's effective. As a wise man once said, there is nothing new under the sun. In everything, there are historical comparisons for modern events. When Andrew Jackson became the ninth president of the United States, American politics became centered around support or opposition to Jackson's policies. The next 5 presidents were defined by either being Jacksonites or anti-Jacksonites. He shattered the previous political paradigm of those who had been involved in the framing of those constitution, even beating John Quincy Adams, the son of the second president of the United States, John Adams. This continued for decades and could have gone on for much longer had the Civil War not become a bigger problem for the average voter. Jackson's then controversial strategy of mudslinging was initially railed by opponents, but eventually became the standard for American political campaigns and discourse. Sound familiar? Donald Trump broke the norm for how politics is done. Kamala Harris was accidentally clairvoyant when she said, "We're not going back." Because we're not. The style that 10 years ago was radical and crass is now the standard. Mamdani is only the beginning. While the Democratic Party may continue to oppose Trump and his beliefs, his bombastic style and populist tone, initially flamed by those who opposed him, but which ultimately propelled him to the Oval Office, has now become the norm. The Trumpian era is upon us. Are you ready for it?